Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Expanse, Season 2, Episodes 1 and 2. The first one is called Safe, the second is Doors and Corners. Full spoilers for the episodes as always. First of all, apologies this is late. This is a good day and a half later than me intended this being up, but my internet was out. No internet, no Skype, no recording.
It's the way of the world.
It's a shame because first episode, you want to set a precedent for how quickly these are going up, that kind of thing. It's also a pain that my internet was out for just over 24 hours and it's caused so much chaos in terms of the schedule that
We have got so much backlog now. We were right on schedule. This was going to be up nice and neat. We had it all planned. It was smooth, and then this, and now we have like 10 things to do today instead of 4.
Yeah, we have a lot to get through today. So the channel will be busy for the rest of the day if you're sort of watching this and the day it goes up. But if not, you don't care. So the reviews will be more timely week to week. It's just, I know it's out, so not much you can do about it. Anyway, so it feels like just last month Season 1 ended. Which it did for us because we watched it last month. Oh, that was a good joke.
Atrocious.
That was a good joke. Anyway, I'm actually kind of... I mean, don't get me wrong, I wish I'd watched it as it aired Season 1. But at the same time, I'm kind of glad I didn't, in a sense, because I feel like this followed straight on and picked up on all these little plot threads that I don't know if I would have...
To the point where if I'd only watched Season 1 when it aired, I feel like I would have needed to rewatch it.
Yeah, I think come Season 3, should it be renewed, I will probably want to go back and rewatch at least Season 2.
We may have to, yeah.
Before the next one.
Or at least read a very detailed synopsis.
Yes, just what were all the plot threads, where are we, what's going on... my big concern going through this two-parter was what are all the ships and stations names again, and what was what? You know, at one point they mentioned they start talking about the Phoebe station. That's a big plot point in the first half of this, and I'm like, wait, which one was that? Which one was the Phoebe?
No. I was all right with a few of the stations. It was only when it got to the smaller ones that I was losing it a little bit.
Don't get me wrong, I remembered, but it took me a couple of seconds just to think about it and like which one was Phoebe, because we talked about a few stations last season.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm glad to have it back. Obviously, I thought this was a great two-parter.
I actually think this was among some of the best stuff from the first season, easily.
Oh, I agree. I'm not disputing that at all. It's funny because I think even though it's got two names, I think they knew from the writing. As soon as they were writing the script, they knew this was going to air together as a double.
It feels that way, yeah.
Because the entire thing essentially has one arc, and especially if you watch the first half without the second, you'd end in a really weird note. Because the first half is all set up, and then the second half is all the payoff, and it feels like it's really meant to be viewed as this double that they've aired it as. So that's
they've just given it two production teams and two titles for some reason.
Yeah. That's pretty typical for TV, though. I feel like it's very rare you get a double episode and it doesn't count as two individual.
No. Often they'll still count as two of the episode order, but often they'll still just put it under one title and put it under one production name.
Oh yeah, and call it part 1 and part 2. Yeah, no, I get that, but I'm feeling like this is more common now, though, where they'll decide to do this, but they'll still treat it as two separate episodes for as far as production goes. I guess it's just easier to schedule and pay people if you're doing it by the exact same amount of screen time.
I imagine that's what it is
per episode. But yeah, so what went down here? So Season 1, of course, ended. Eros, the Protomolecule, we have a name for it now, was released on Eros. We've seen hints of this giant thing that it's grown into at the end, but we didn't see any more of it. They're keeping it mysterious.
Didn't really know what it was. We were speculating a lot if you go back and watch that.
We were speculating a lot about what that thing was. And I have to say, I am really excited about the new nuggets of information we have received in this premiere.
Also, I don't think our speculation was that far off the mark either.
It wasn't. And I'm actually going to make a lot of comparisons to Alien in a minute, because a lot of it jives with... And I'm not saying... I don't know who wrote the books that the series is based on, but I'm not saying they were copying...
but inspired by.
Inspiration, I think, was certainly there. I can draw a lot of parallels to... So what do we hear in this episode? We hear that this thing was discovered, but it doesn't actually come from our solar system. They call it... It's not extraterrestrial, they use the word extrasolar.
Yeah.
Which obviously just means outside of our solar system.
Makes sense.
So the first hints of alien life, And the theory is, by the scientist who's working on it and doing the evil experiments, and he seems really evil, obviously, because he's letting hundreds of thousands of people die, is that this was actually intended for Earth, and it just never got to its target.
It got caught in the rings of the gravity of, what was it, Saturn?
Yeah. So, someone, something, some species, some entity aimed this at us, and didn't quite hit.
That's exciting.
But it's a weapon.
Yeah.
It is a weapon, it's a biological weapon of mass destruction. Well, it's a weapon that seems to be sentient as well. And this is why it makes me think of Alien a lot of ways, because a lot of the Alien, the reason why the alien's there and the backstory that comes brought up in Prometheus is very similar to this kind of idea, but it's a bioweapon of some sort. And it was really making me think of this. Even the idea that you've got like an evil corporation on Earth who wants to use it and abuse it for their own gain, and that's kind of what all the sort of evil people on Earth are doing. Although the scientist actually run up to him at the end, and I realise I'm going way out of order here, but I'm just talking about this
singular plot thread. Let's do this one here.
The protomolecule. I'm talking about that just now. Even though he seems to be kind of, at least he believes it's like, oh, greater good. Yeah, I've killed 100,000 people, but I'm doing it to save the entire species.
Yeah,
I want to understand this thing so that when Alien McAlien dude shows up, we have a chance to fight back.
Yeah. It also reminds me a lot of Mass Effect.
Yeah, a bit of Mass Effect in there, yeah.
Yeah. It's a very common sort of idea in this sort of sci-fi, but I always like it.
Oh, yeah. I feel like nothing on its own is original in terms of what the show does. It's just, it takes all these great inspirations, it does it all well, slick as hell, like,
yeah,
really,
and it has its own spin on things, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Definitely, because even though I'm comparing it to Alien, and even though it's also a biological weapon, this is very different. This is more like a virus that grows and becomes things, whereas Alien, of course, is very... No, it's a monster, it's a creature that, reprocreates in a very interesting, unique way. So...
That's one way of putting it.
Well, chestburster, all that jazz, facehuggers, acid for blood, all that. But so all this good stuff really got me excited when they said this was something that was possibly from elsewhere. They discovered this.
No, that was exciting enough. It's when they said it was aimed. It's like, that's the part that really gets me excited. Yeah,
the word aimed is very interesting, and it makes me wonder what the end game, because obviously so much of season 1 and even this episode is about the brewing tension. Will a war ignite between Mars and Earth, and will that go off? And it feels like that's the focus for a lot of the show. But as soon as they say, "Oh, this thing was aimed at Earth," I was like, "Well, what is the end goal?"
Things just got bigger.
Yeah, things just got bigger. Things just got extremely big.
That said, I loved all the Earth Mars stuff in this one. Like, it was good in the first season. It was enjoyable, but I really liked it where the tensions were so high in this one.
Well, speaking of Mars, I actually think it was really exciting that they started the episode, because even though we've seen the ship last season, we got a sense of what they were like, but we never seen on the surface of Mars. I don't believe so anyway. I don't remember.
I don't recall it. And on top of that, we never really got much of the Martian soldiers. Like, we got like the very brief snippets, but we never got inside the mind of one.
Yeah, we had the captain of the ship, and we had that one soldier who sort of helped them escape, and we got a little bit of them, but not a super amount. It wasn't a lot. So the fact that we started this episode with this training exercise, what turned out to be a training exercise, and it's these 4 Marines, we'll call them, on cadets. The surface of Mars. I don't know if they are cadets, because they had a different acronym on their thing, and you may be right, you may be right, but it felt more like they were like a specific team.
Maybe. I say cadets because they were running a training exercise, and they were talking about, oh, we'll do another training exercise, let's run it again. And they were like, no, it's time for the real world.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It didn't feel to me like they were just being called up for the first time, I guess. It felt more like this was like downtime, and they were just training as this is what they do.
Like a special unit.
Yeah. It felt like they were called in for specific things. Actually, until they revealed where they were actually going, I thought this was like cutting back a little bit. And this was the team going to Fred Johnson. And then I remember, no, that's the UN, that's not Mars. But for a bit, I thought, oh, maybe that was like us cutting back and showing the team that's going there. Which, by the way, we never got to that ship getting to Fred Johnson.
No, we did not.
So I wonder if that'll pop up at some point. It's
got to. And they're kind of just forgotten about it.
Yeah. I feel like when Fred Johnson goes back to the Tycho,
that
maybe they'll be waiting for him or something like that. But no, the fact that they actually showed this stuff, and we have Draper, who's the sort of, we had 4 characters, but she was the main one who we kind of got to know a little bit, and the rest are all teaser, and she's really high strung. She's looking at our simulation of what Mars will look like once they actually terraform it, and even the fact that we learn a little bit more about how the previous conflict delayed the terraformation. Like, it was going to be much quicker, but Earth demanded certain resources. That's what almost caused the war. But they talk about how it was talked down. Like, it got to the brink of war, but they managed to.
It pops up a few times in this one as well, like where the UN Council are discussing like what to do, and they're like, well, we can just hit on where it hurts with their rehabilitation programs and stuff. That's what'll hurt them more than any military strike.
Even that as well, seeing this round table in like the high command of the UN and them making decisions, and we see a Vassarala with the other like heads of state and all that.
Yeah,
it felt like, especially that in the Mars stuff, it felt like right away it was like, yeah, the world's still bigger than what you've seen. We're still going to keep expanding it. You're still going to see more new things that you haven't before.
Yeah, obviously last season was so focused on the singular mystery that we had, and the main crew that we have as well. But there was always this Mars and Earth stuff there, but it was definitely in the background comparatively, whereas this feels like it's much more the focus already.
Yeah, and I think that's because I think we speculated in the finale of season 1 that Miller might get separated and we'll get another plot separate from the main group, and that may still happen because we're only premiering. But I think maybe what will happen instead here is that now we have these Martian characters that we're following. That might be the
new subplot
that's separate from the others, and maybe they'll intersect eventually. But because so we have Draper, and she's almost wanting war, and at least at the get-go here, we don't get the sense that she's aligned with the villains of the piece. You know, the ones that are experimenting and, you know, like with Mao and all that. But, I mean, that could be a twist. She could end up...
It doesn't feel that way. It feels more like she's just young and eager and wants to prove that they're better. Yeah,
she's got a very high opinion of herself and her morals. Not in a snobby way, just because the others, our teammates, joke about, oh, I think the captain's into you. You should probably sleep with them for, you know, favours and special treatment.
She just believes that what they're doing is right and that they are better than Earth, essentially.
Yeah, to the point where she's like, no, I think we should start a war. Like, because her superior, her lieutenant, Sutton, he's just constantly, no, we have to avoid war at all costs. Like, no one, this doesn't benefit us, it doesn't benefit them. We have to get around this at every chance we get.
Yeah, it's the whole idea of the immortality of youth, isn't it? Where they believe they're invincible and they because she thinks that they can win this war easily, where the superiors are like, come on, we know better than that.
No, this war will last years, if not decades, and it will delay the terraformation of Mars even further than what you think has already been done. So, that was all fascinating stuff. Seeing the Martian ship, and then again back to the diplomacy between them and between the UN roundtable. It all comes down to the Phoebe station, which the Mars ship's going towards, because they want to, something on there we don't know about. They've got some footage of the victims of the protomolecule. I love having a name now. We kept having to dance around it last season.
The thing.
Yeah, the thing. The blue, glowing disease thing. But they're on their way, the UN realise, and we see Mao and Ehrenreich sort of have a private conversation, and they have a little bit of a tiff because Ehrenreich's like, oh, I need to sacrifice, and he's like, I just lost my daughter, you son of a bitch. Not in those words, but that was the gist of the scene.
That was the message.
And he's like, no, just find a way to send a UN ship out there without it looking suspicious. So he tries to convince everyone to, basically, we need to send UN ships out everywhere because all these targets are in danger of, you know, whatever.
Well, I think the first suggestion is, let's just take out a small target and, you know, tit for tat.
Oh, no, and before that.
Oh, is this before that?
Yeah, before that, when he's just trying to convince them that they should send the ship there, he disguises it by saying, oh, let's send it to all these stations because they're all susceptible to attack and they're all like 50-50 with Martians, so they could try and overtake them and that kind of thing. Yeah. And he gets Vassarala to back her up, but obviously we know that she's playing along to protect herself when she almost gets assassinated, by the way, at the start of the episode.
Yeah.
Which was,
I mean, and we did find out who that was as well.
Yeah, OPA, yeah.
It was, but it was a fringe group of the OPA as well.
Just to make things more complex, we've got fringe groups of the OPA, which makes sense.
It does make sense. It was the extremists.
Because the idea, of course, is that she's blaming Johnson in the media, and this is a kind of attack against that. But of course, we know that she doesn't really blame him. She's just playing along so that the evil around her doesn't get wind of her and tries to snuff her out, like she believes the ambassador to Mars was last season.
Yeah.
So, and that leads to some. Obviously, she's going to try and contact Fred Johnson, and she has that very interesting conversation with the head of the fleet, who's very moral, tries to stop any attacks happening, and
to the point where he has to quit.
He has to quit, and it's actually when they're at the bar after he quits that he gives us some information about Fred Johnson that is enlightening, because we were speculating about him. Was he evil? Was he the butcher of the Anderson station? All that stuff. And it's like, no, Fred Johnson was told by his superiors that they have not surrendered, and he's carried out this order with the wrong information.
Yeah, it changes everything we knew about him.
Yeah, because even like, I think it's like, I don't know if it's before or after that, but we have those scenes where it's when, you know, the Rocinante and everything are doing their attack in the second half of the episode, and we'll talk about that obviously more in depth, but he's like at the command, and he's like, I thought I was over sending people in to die, and he's very cynical, he's very jaded, and the other person, but they're all volunteers, and he's like, that's the trick, you make them think it was their idea. And he knows it isn't. He knows he's kind of manipulated them. And we see him kind of do that, because that guy tries to stick up against him, and he puts him at the airlock. Which, by the way, if I have a complaint about this episode, it's that guy getting out the airlock in that scene. For some reason, he falls down when he goes out the airlock, and it looks really weird. I'm sure there's maybe a scientific explanation for it, but it just looked wrong.
I mean, I get that. I thought it was weird as well, but
it's kind of like, I would assume it was wrong, except it's this show which has seemed to be very faithful for the most part.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming they have a reason for him falling. Like, maybe because it's in a station and the station's spinning or something like that.
Maybe. I'm not entirely sure.
It was the only time throughout the whole double episode where I went,
those things I questioned it as well, but then they make such effort with like the little thrusters and stuff. It's like, that feels a weird detail to miss when going outwards would have been easier.
Yeah, or even something as simple as when Holden and Naomi like turn off their comms and they press their helmets together outside in the vacuum so they can hear through because obviously sound travels through material,
the vibrations,
through the solids, so they can hear each other through the masks. I thought that was a really nice little. It made it feel very intimate.
It did.
Very, very intimate, which obviously led to them porking in the airlock. Which, by the way, that's 2 premieres in a row where Holden's got some. So I just want to point that out.
Think it's damn impressive he can turn the cameras off on that touchscreen without even looking at it. Because I struggle to type anything on my phone touchscreen when I am looking at it sometimes, let alone when I'm not.
Practice.
I mean, yeah, he's had some practice to turn off those cameras, I can tell you that.
he's got that layout mapped out just so that he, in a rush, when things are
he knows exactly what he's doing, and I was impressed.
Things are getting steamy. He can do that, which I was okay with. I feel like they've built the tension, or not the tension, the sexual tension between them adequately since last season.
We spoke about it quite a lot going through all of last season.
Yeah, and they had these glances in this episode. Then they had that really intimate moment with the helmets outside when she's making sure he's okay because he's still kind of freaked out, you know, about having cancer and almost dying and everything else, and the guilt of everything that started with him making a stupid decision.
Yep.
So, no, what was I talking about though? I went tangented off to that. It was back to.
So we're talking about the airlock.
Fred Johnson. Back to Mars and Earth over the Phoebe station.
Yep.
Right,
yes.
we went like layers there.
Yeah.
We had to chill back. Yeah, so the Mars ship's going towards the UN, starts to catch up, and they're going at an accelerated speed, so they'll get there first, which makes Mars go, wait, there must be something there they don't want us to see. They're making a beeline for it.
Yeah. And
then Mars fires missiles, and the Earth's like, should we attack back? And Avasaral's like, no, the captain of the ship knows he's not hot-headed. He's got a plan here. This isn't just to start a war kind of thing, like. And it's actually Mars who destroyed the Phoebe station, so none of them can get to it.
Yeah, probably for the best.
Probably for the best, and it's almost like a diplomatic play on his part, where he's made the choice like, well, if none of us can get to it, we're not going to have this big confrontation when we both get there.
Still on even footing.
And that's kind of his goal, and that seems to be his whole character.
I really like this for Avasarala as well, because it was a good moment for her where she was talking about the captain and how, oh no, I know him, he's fine, he's really rational, and then the guy goes after and goes, yeah, well, you don't know him at all. Yeah,
because she mentioned she knew him at the academy. He's like, he never went to the academy. But he knew what she just did, and he was on her side in terms of stopping conflict, so he was going to let it go. But
I really liked it for her. It proves that even though she is this moral center that we have for a lot of it. She's willing to do what she has to get her way.
Oh yeah, she's very manipulative
Yeah.
for what she believes is the greater good, which could become a problem depending on where she goes. But that's certainly where she is in this one. So there's a little bit about Miller and Amos. They have a bit of a conflict in this episode.
Put it lightly.
Because obviously Miller's friend from the Eros station was shot by Amos in the finale because he wanted to leave and not stay for them to show up. And Miller confronts him about this in the cafeteria, I guess.
Yeah.
And then Amos ends up punching him when Miller goes for him, and that's all fine. The thing I want to point out, though, that I really loved about this is Amos's eyes. After he throws the punch, he's staring at them with these wide open eyes without blinking, and he has never looked more psychotic in this show.
And he has been pretty psychotic up till now.
Yeah.
And then he flips.
Yeah, even Amos's character in this one got a lot of stuff, kind of a lot more depth. Was sort of because we kept talking last season about he seems like he's kind of broke, like all this, everything's been. It's almost like PTSD. Maybe he snapped, and we kind of get a sense in this one that he was always kind, maybe not to the same extreme, but he was always kind of like this, where Naomi and him have this friendship where he follows her orders, she keeps him kind of in line, and he needs that because he doesn't make great decisions for himself. He also gets some standout moments actually in the action stuff because he has to go and repair the thruster or whatever it is, and he has to go to this. I think it's like outside the ship, but between two parts of it, and he's trying to fix the thruster, and like, right, we need to make this maneuver. This will kill you if you're not like stable. And he puts his mag boots on. He's on one. He holds on to the top, and then he starts flapping around with his mag boots on. So he's sort of going back and forth. Oh, it's great stuff.
It's great. Because obviously they're like, look, we need to do this, but it might kill you. He's just like, yeah, whatever, just do it.
Yeah. But of course, it also leads to a great bonding scene when Miller kind of bonds with the crew. Because Alex insists that they have a sit-down dinner. He makes lasagna out of whatever fake stuff they use to make food because they keep talking about how they don't have the real stuff.
Yeah.
And they get this great story about how when they were on Ceres and the cheese was like someone stole some cheese, so it was all over the ship or the station for a week, and people could buy it. And Miller walks in and he starts talking about how, like, the Star Helix, him and his cop buddies actually seized the shipment. And it almost makes everyone kind of hate him for a second, as they think, oh, like, he took it away.
It's your fault that we got no cheese.
Yeah, we lost it after a couple of days. And then he tells this great story about how, but then it just went missing from evidence. It was so weird. And it kind of made them bond in this weird way where the cops stole it for themselves afterwards, and it made them kind of relate in this.
Yeah, because it's the same thing they would have done, so they can respect it.
Yeah, and he tells this great story about how the captain's grilling them, was like, where did this cheese go? And everyone's having these really cheesy farts, I think was the was what it said.
The whole room smelled of cheese farts.
Yeah. And Amos, really symbolic, Amos moves his thing, puts a plate over.
Yeah.
And
it's a big change from earlier in the episode where he had him by the throat.
It is, he was almost killing him.
Yeah.
But it's it's really good character stuff like that makes the show work at its core before you bring in all the sci-fi stuff.
Like them just sitting down and having that meal was one of my favorite bits, because even though we've kind of come to know the core crew over the course of the past season, we never did get a moment where they all just sat down like this. There was never a chance. There was never any time. Which
is what Alex even says. He's like, we never get to do this. We never
exactly.
get to just sit down
but it was really nice to see them all just sit and talk and bond, and it really helps going forward, I think.
It does really help, and it really helped the rest of the episode where they go on this big mission, because obviously they go back to Fred Johnson and they say, right, we know about this small station. It's hidden, very disguised, but we know where it is, and if we're going to get answers for this, for Eros, for all this stuff that's going on, we have to go, which leads to Fred Johnson getting the OPA people to volunteer, and we end up with this mission where they have this bigger ship, which the Rassanati hides behind, and we get all this stuff, and Alex is doing the simulations to see if he can get past it, and we get
failing every time,
and we get this fantastic action scene of the ship using its guns and dodging stuff and shooting the missiles that are coming towards it, and then it has to it's using like the actual space station to like duck and dive and hide from the bigger ship, and then it comes out and hits it.
It looks great.
Yeah, all of it looks fantastic, and this stuff all looked great last season. They've not missed a beat. It doesn't feel like they've cut the budget or anything like that. It still looks gorgeous.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this was one of the most action-packed, like, CG rendered things that we've had in the show yet, and it looked fantastic.
I'd argue on TV.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I can't think of it. Another TV show that had a big thing like that. This big sequence that lasted this long.
yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think there's individual moments, say on Westworld, that look even better. But it's
this was
like,
a good like couple of minute chunk.
yeah, yeah. This was a lot of stuff. I think this is another reason why I think it was definitely built as one big thing. Is like all this actions at the end, and it feels like it's building. Like if you just watch the first half of this, it'd be like, well, almost nothing happened in that.
Yeah, because you open with the Mars simulation, which is kind of your actiony stuff for that episode.
Which was good. Don't get me wrong. Yeah,
it was.
The suit had those like rockets that shot up out the back and like targeted stuff. Yeah, it was cool.
But then this does feel like, no, this is the end of this opening. It really does feel like, no, this is all one thing.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of debate as well between Miller and Holden, who kind of bond as well, and they sort of thank each other for stuff, and that all builds to the climax, because throughout the episode Miller keeps talking about, I don't really care about right. I need to know who to shoot, and I'll do that, and I'll get that done. And Miller's not one to play politics. He has no time for it. And of course that comes into play at the end, because obviously Miller's on the boarding crew at the end.
The breaching pods, which made me laugh because they're FedEx.
Yeah, the FedEx. That really made me laugh as well.
That cracked me up. I was like, have they expanded into that in the future?
Makes sense, they would have.
I mean, yeah, sure, but it just cracked me up.
So he's on the boarding party with OPA people, and actually, I thought it was a really cool thing. The kid who was one of the kids stealing water from early season 1 that we meet again, he gets shot, and we think, and it looks like he dies, because you see like a splat across the helmet, because they're all wearing helmets when they first go on, and then Miller takes the helmet off, and it's only on the front. It's like he's been shot with like a gel bullet that splats, but it was a really good fake out, because it legitimately looked like his head just went pop. Because
it was this kind of dark red goo, so it does just look like there was blood.
Yeah, make sure brightly lit, maybe not, but this was like a dark corridor with stuff. So, but they find this before we get to the end, of course, which was what I was getting at with Miller, shooting first. So we'll talk about that as a big cliffhanger. But they find these weird people in a VR trance where they're all doing stuff. They're all doing stuff with their hands as if they're controlling things.
Yeah.
They're completely oblivious to anyone being in the room.
And they look like scientists. They're wearing all like lab coats and stuff.
Yeah. And very weird, very creepy, very Clockwork Orangey mixed with a touch of Minority Report kind of vibes. And when Miller unplugs them, they all kind of freak out, and the OPA, the idiots that they are, just open fire and kill almost all of them. Miller manages to save one of them. He's like, we need to know what they know yet, idiots.
Yeah.
And they're not armed, so just shoot them in the leg.
Yeah.
It's not.
But they are completely feral. Like.
Oh, they are. They wake up and they're like, and they're running towards them. Yeah. But then they find main scientist dude, who we've seen at the end of last season, and this is when he gives us all this stuff. And by this point, Holden and everyone else is, well, not everyone, but Holden's on the ship, and they hear this. Fred Johnson and him hear this from him about, this was aimed at us. I need to understand this. I don't care who's supervised me. I don't care if I'm working for the UN. I don't care if I'm working for you guys. I need to keep doing this. I need to figure out what's going on and how to fight it. And Fred Johnson seems to be willing to go with it. He's like, he understands that this is actually something they might need, that there is actually a purpose to this. And he starts negotiating. He's like, look, I need access to all your data. You report to me, you need to give me all this stuff. And the guy's like, yeah, done.
Yeah.
And at this point,
you're kind of on his side though, aren't you? Because you're like, okay, he made a dig move, sacrificing these stations. But you can see where he's coming from. There might be a real greater good scenario here.
And at this exact second of the show, I was thinking, that's going to be a really interesting new dynamic where they've got this guy and he's kind of on our side and he's trying to figure all this stuff out, and it's not some evil ploy. He's actually doing this for good reasons. And then bang, bullet in the head, and just camera pans over. There's Miller just with his gun, and he just walks out. Cut to credits.
It's great.
And I love it because it's so. As much as that would have been interesting, this serves his character so much because, like I say, it ties into this. He's not here to play games. He's not here for politics. He doesn't care who's benefiting who. This guy killed innocent people. He's a dead man.
Yeah.
He doesn't care.
Yeah.
This is the guy. If you put Mel in the room at the UN with the round table,
probably kill all of them.
He'd probably just start shooting people as soon as they start suggesting we'll just fire. Because obviously after the Martians destroy Phoebe's station, that's when they all start, well, maybe we should just destroy this other random station. There's only a few people on it, and it'll,
Yeah, it's like there's only like 50 people on it.
aye, tit for tat. So if Miller's in that room, he's shooting all of them in the head.
Pretty much.
At least the one who suggested that, because
Oh, he's a goner.
yeah, he's just dead. Uh, so much set up, so much world building still,
Yeah.
which is great. It's great that at the start of season 2, it wasn't just a case of let's do the exact same thing. It was no, let's open the door to new things. That right away, here's Mars, here's Martians who are now going to be a part of the core cast.
Yeah, because like I said, we'd encountered Martians, but we hadn't had an ongoing plot with any of them. But now, this new one, Draper, I really feel like I got to know her already in a short amount of time. Like, I get inside her head. I got what she's fighting for, what her aims are, which is impressive considering we only just met her in these episodes.
Yeah, we might end up having the same thing with the other 3 that she was with. She's on a team of 4, or maybe it's just a signal that they're all goners and she'll
Maybe.
be...
Well, I mean, we got little bits because we got the guy who was an Earther.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there was a guy who was from Earth, so they tease him about not being a true Martian kind of thing.
Yeah, he's got his bones are too strong.
Yeah. And then the other guy, I think, is gay because he mentioned that he would sleep with the lieutenant if he... I think it was buttered the same side of the bread, I believe was the way he put it.
Right.
I think that was the line was. Maybe it might have been toast, but it was the same sentiment.
Yeah.
And then there was the other woman who... I don't remember anything specific about beyond...
I don't either.
She was
the one we got the least of.
She was the one teasing the Arthur the most, so maybe she's more of the bully type of character.
Yeah, it could be.
So that'd be that kind of thing. But so we got them. Obviously, we're back with the main crew. They're all doing this stuff. Action was great. It was exciting. Opened up a lot of stuff for the season. Really made everything feel bigger in terms of both the world that we're covering, but also the ideas, because we're now this threat of something else out there, the unknown, the mystery, which means we've not lost mystery, because there was a lot of mystery in the first season, and that all kind of got wrapped up.
But now we got a new one.
Yeah, but now it's just... It's not even new, which is what I like about it. It's taking the same one.
It's an extension, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's went to a different place, and now we have all this to look forward to.
I really like the music in this episode. There's a lot... I mean, it was always good, but there was a lot of particularly nice things. I really like the choir that it had for the Martians.
I also... I think it was the intimate moments between... Holden and Naomi. I thought they had some really good, nice little emotional stuff, which I think stood out to me because the show's not typically done emotional sort of music.
It hasn't, no, that's true.
So it stuck out to me a little bit more, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was solid throughout.
But I think this was a fantastic opening. I'm glad to have the show back. I'm excited there's more episodes this season.
It was weird, because obviously we just wrapped up maybe a month ago, and I wasn't like... we thought it was very good, and we spoke about that, but I wasn't like, oh, I need to watch the next one right away.
I think it's because we just watched it all in about the space of a week.
Yeah, and then it got to this coming back. I was like, oh, cool, that's back. I'll watch that, obviously. But then after, I was like, when it was like halfway through and it was all going, I was like, oh, this is so good. I'm so glad this is on.
Yeah, so... No, that's the Expanse premiere. Again, sorry this was up a couple of days later than it should have been, but we should be back on form come next episode, 3 I guess, episode 3.
Yeah.
So look forward to that. There'll be a lot of other videos going up today if you happen to be watching this on day of it going up. Lots of new shows, more new episodes of other stuff, and the news usually goes up on a Friday. Lots of stuff coming today.
It's going to be a slog, basically.
For us, yes. So thank you very much for watching. Let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mild_fuzz. Individual Twitters are on the screen if you want our regular ramblings. Which, by the way, just someone did tweet at me asking if we were doing this week to week. Presumably because it had been a day and the review wasn't up yet, which was a fair thing to ask. But they said in the tweets, sorry if this is the wrong place. I'm like, no, it's not the wrong place. It's never the wrong place. You can ask either of us on Twitter. You can ask the actual Mild Fuzz Twitter account if there's something to ask. Feel free.
Yeah, any of those, and you'll get your answer.
Yeah, don't hold back. Or even email us mailedfuzz@gmail.com. Although that's a bit more formal.
Or put it in a YouTube comment elsewhere. We'll usually get to those.
Aye. Although in this case, my internet being down meant my YouTube commenting viewing abilities were a bit limited for a day and a half.
But generally speaking, that would be a place that would get an answer.
Yeah, it would be. But if stuff's not going up and it feels like it should have been up, Twitter's your best bet because at least one of us will see it.
Or join the Malfas Facebook group and we'll probably have something in there letting you know. Or you can ask, and we're usually around, one of us at least.
Yeah, so there you go. That's Expanse Season 2, Episodes 1 and 2. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next time.